The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Today is Monday, September 10th, 2012. And if you're watching us live this morning, you may have noticed that there's a slight program change. We are starting at 10 a.m. in the morning. Now we've moved to a 2-hour format from 10 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. We'd love to know your opinion about that, and we'd also love to have information from you about the kinds of things that you'd like to see on the show, the kinds of interviews that you'd like to see, the kinds of questions that you would like to ask. And of course, when we have experts in the studio, we so appreciate when you guys ask them questions. And we are going to have a host of experts and parents that will be dropping in both live and via Skype during this week. So really exciting week that we've got planned for you. I'm really thrilled to be here. Want to remind you, though, there's lots of different ways that you can get in touch with us. If you're watching us right now on autism-live.com, then you see that I'm talking and next to me is a box, and above that box it says Shannon is answering right now. You have the opportunity to type into that box below. You don't have to log in, you don't have to give us your email address, you don't have to tell us your name, anything at all, but you can type whatever you'd like in there, hit enter, and it shows up magically right here on my screen in real time, which you gotta love, right? Technology, it's a good thing. And in that way, we can have a conversation right here, and I can ask somebody a question when they are in the studio. But there are lots of other ways that you can get in touch with us. And in fact, on this program, we're only live 2 hours a day, and the rest of the day on Autism-Live, you will see rebroadcast. So if it says rebroadcast, you'll want to take advantage of one of these different ways. You can email us. We love to get your emails, and we like to answer your question on the next available live show, but also send you a typewritten response or a link to when we answered the show on the live show. When we answer the question on the live show. Yep, it's Monday. And my tongue is not yet awake. In any case, you can participate with us via email. We really like that. And you can send anytime, day or night. And if you see a show, a clip from something that happened 3 months ago and there's an expert that's on the show and you think, darn it, I would have liked to have asked, fill in the blank, send it to us. And we still stay in contact with everybody we've had on the show. We can always ask them after the fact, and they're thrilled to answer those kinds of questions. In fact, a lot of the time we will refer your question out to an expert. It does take a couple of days sometimes, but you will get a response. So please take advantage of that. But there's other ways that you can get in touch with us. If you'd like, you can call us. Good old-fashioned phone call. You know how nowadays when you call a business and you can't get anybody on the phone? Call us. You can call in right now live. We'll patch you into the studio. You and I can have a conversation. You can have a conversation with any of the experts that we have on the program as well. Now, if you call and we're not live, you'll either be speaking to another person outside the studio, which you can always do, by the way. Even if we are live, you can talk to somebody outside. I know some of you are shy, and I understand that completely. And if it's not during business hours, you can leave a message for us, and we will get back to you as soon as we're back in the studio. We appreciate you participating with us in that way. You may prefer to Skype with us, especially for you international callers. We do Skype internationally and locally. Local and long distance and very long distance. Not all the way to Mars, mind you, but everything else. So please take advantage of that. If you have a camera on your computer and you want to have your image here with us as well, you've got something that you want to talk about, let's do it. Let's Skype away. So that's another way that you can participate with us. Always like to remind you that you can utilize our Facebook page to communicate with us. We appreciate it if you like our page while we're there. We're slowly trying to, we're the new kids on the block, slowly really trying to eke up our numbers because when you do that, when you like us, it means that we are available to more people. That's just how it works. We can be seen by more people. And since we're free and about giving information to help our children on the autism spectrum, how could that be a bad thing? So please like us while you're there, but also participate. You can give us suggestions of things that you'd like to see on the show, comment on things that we've done, and comment on some other posts that we share from other sites as well on Facebook. It's building a wealth of information there on our Facebook page. And by the way, you can also tweet with us. We are at Autism Live Show. So feel free to take advantage of that and tweet away with us. I mentioned that there are other ways that you can watch us. We're here on autism-live.com 24 hours a day. And 2 of those hours, Monday through Friday, we're live, but we're here all the time. So you can always tune in here. But if you'd like to catch a particular show, if you know and you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I know that they were talking about this one topic I really wanted to see last week and I missed it, don't worry about it. There's no DVR yet for internet, but we have the capability to give it to you. So you can be watching us on blip.tv. You can search the date or the topic or the person that we were interviewing or the question and find those interviews and topics on blip.tv. All free, by the way. You can also be watching us on our very own YouTube page. We have a channel there on YouTube that you can not only watch the different interviews and search the topics and pause and rewind them, but you can share them as well on your Facebook page or via email if you want to send something off to your child's teacher and say, I really think this is information that could be useful to you, or I'd like your opinion of it. You can certainly do that with any of our YouTube clips that are there, and also leave us comments and questions and whatever you would like on the YouTube pages as well. It all works. You can also download us for free on iTunes, again, for free. All of these things for free. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and we hope that you will enjoy doing that. You can also watch us on Ustream. And we have more ways coming. I can't give it away yet, but there are more fascinating big ways that you'll be able to watch our show in just a little while. I also want to remind you, I always like to remind everybody at the top of the show, the reason why we're here is to help hook you up with information. Information to help you be the best, most efficient, most effective member of a team working with a child on the autism spectrum, hoping to get them to their fullest potential, whatever that might be. So whether you're a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, we want to help put tools in your tool belt, put goodies in your goodie bag so that you have ways in which you can be helpful and useful. I am a parent. That's why I'm here. I have a child who was diagnosed at the age of 2.5 with autism, classic autism. He is now 9, and normally I would say to you, he's at school today. He's in neurotypical 4th grade, but we're all a little under the weather. So he is home today. I'm here with you because I can't infect you via the camera, but everybody's a little under the weather. So he's home with Daddy, and I hope he's feeling better. But he is the light of my life. What can I say? And so incredible. You know, it's fascinating to me when he does get sick. There's always a moment, I can tell when he has a fever, because something happens, something inside his little ecosystem happens, and it's as though sometimes, you know, he's always progressing and he does really well. And we have deep conversations. I've shared that before on the show. But when he has just a slight fever, there is a different level of what happens with my child, that he is so centered and still and grounded and focused and clear and articulate. And it always reminds me of like how much more we still have to go, but we get closer and closer to it all the time. But it's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know if any of you experience that when your child gets a fever. We have lots of different theories for why it is that that happens when he gets a fever. But he had a slight fever last night, and I was getting him into the tub, and he said to me, he goes, he says, my gyroscope's just a little off today. I said, excuse me, what did you say? He said, my gyroscope, it's just a little off. He said, I seem to be tilting a little to the left, and he said, I just don't quite have my feet under me. and not the words that I would ever use to describe being a little bit off, but I love this, my gyroscope's a little off today. 9 years old. And this is a little boy who at the age of 3 had no functional communication skills left. So kind of amazing. And we work towards that all the time. We get closer and closer to him being that articulate all the time. And some days he is without the fire, the fire of the fever, and other days not so much. But it's all a part of the journey, right? And we all have a different path on this journey. But there is progress available for all of our children. And that's really what we like to talk about here. But I want to remind you, I'm a mom. I want to hook you up with the information. I am not an expert. I'm not an expert in autism. I'm not even an expert in my own child. I humbly admit that, because just when I think I have him figured out, he changes. So day by day, I'm just like you, doing the best that I can, figuring this out. And I'm lucky enough that I get to sit here and share with you the things that I learn from people, and to bring them in to teach all of us, you and I, new stuff that's useful to us. So that's why I'm here. And any way that I can help you, boy, that's why I'm here. I got incredibly lucky that I ran into the right people at the right time so that my son got a tremendous amount of help. And I know that I have a job to pay that forward. So I'm here, and I take it really seriously. So use me, write to me, let's get this done. Let me help you to hook you up with the information that you need. Okay, I've said my piece. All right, we like to start every morning with something that I fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is the time of day when we take on that one word, one phrase, one anagram, and try to figure out what it means. Put it into a context that has something to do with autism and with our children on the autism spectrum. The jargon is intensive, right? But we have to make friends with it. We have to, so that when we're sitting in meetings and people are talking to us about our children, that we don't feel the need to get up and run screaming from the room, or to get a huge dictionary and sit there and look up every other word that they say. So we do this just like we do when we teach our children, small itty-bitty increments. So we don't get overwhelmed. See if we can plug it in to how we speak, and we go back over the terms from time to time. Now today, we have a term that we use a lot on the show here, and that you've heard a lot of experts talking about, especially in the last couple of weeks. It's come up a lot, but we've never had it as jargon of the day before. How incredibly remiss of us. So we're going to do that today. Our term today is perspective taking. Okay, now this may be something that you certainly heard these words in other contexts, right? And you may even have heard this within the context of autism, and you may be further along than I was, but I think it was probably about a year into intensive ABA when, for the first time, somebody talked to me about perspective taking in terms of autism, and it opened a whole new realm of what we needed to do and where we needed to go. So let's take a look at our actual definition. Perspective taking: inferring another person's thoughts, feelings, desires, beliefs, etc., and using these inferences to explain that person's past, current, or future behavior. Now, as actual definitions go, it's not the worst, but it's a little overwhelming, right? So let's see if we can take it down a notch for our working definition. Putting yourself in another person's shoes, understanding what another person is thinking or feeling. Okay, so here's what we know about autism. There have been several studies that have been done, and we've had a lot of people lately in talking about the fact that sometimes, in fact, a great deal of the time when we're talking about autism, we will see that their ability to differentiate between what they're feeling and what somebody else is feeling is impaired greatly sometimes. So that we will see actions like a child who sees somebody who's hurt and they seem oblivious to it, that they're fine, so they don't understand why that person's crying or upset. If they're not feeling the pain, then surely no one else is feeling the pain. And we will see lots of different elements of this. We also will see children who are unable to switch the pronoun when they're talking to somebody. So if I say, I want to go to the store, the child then, if they also wanted to go, their appropriate response would be, or just talking to me saying, oh, you want to go to the store? but instead they will say, I want to go to the store, meaning you want to go to the store. They can't switch the pronoun. We don't know exactly why that is, but it's a huge deficit, and it has really far-reaching issues, certainly with social interactions. People will get frustrated, and their ability to pick up on social cues, small little social cues, really, really impaired. Now, when I was talking to somebody, one of our experts this morning about this definition, they said, you know, it's really noteworthy to mention that there are lots of different skills involved with perspective taking, because there's one thing to engage in perspective taking, right? To know that what you think is not what the person sitting next to you thinks, to know that what you're feeling is not what they're feeling, to know that what you see is not what they see, right? So you can engage in perspective taking, but sometimes people engage in it and they're not good at it. So being good at it is just another notch up in perspective taking. First, we want all of us, not just our kids, to engage in perspective taking, and then we want to get good at it. So can we teach that skill? You betcha we can. We can teach somebody to be like a detective and pick up on clues and start to understand, well, this might mean this, and take it into consideration in this larger context. But then the next part of it is knowing, okay, what to do about it. So not only have I engaged in perspective taking, I've stopped to think about what you might be thinking or feeling. I need to get better at it, but now I'm good at it, and now I have to know what to do next. So I see that you're upset, and I'm good at seeing that you're upset, but now what can I do? What action can I take to make you feel better? And of course, the other component of this is that you can teach those 3 steps. You can teach somebody to engage in it. You can teach somebody to be good at it, and you can teach them to have a list of things that they might try in certain circumstances, right? All of that we can do. But then the 4th component of it is caring. And that's infinitely harder. It's not impossible, but infinitely harder. Getting somebody to care about taking somebody else's perspective. We can teach them to do it, but we also want them to care about it, to care about what other people are thinking and feeling. I know firsthand that we can do this with children on the autism, because my son did not engage in perspective taking of any kind at the appropriate time when he was supposed to, and now he does. And he does it like a champ, and he cares. He really, really cares. So I know that we can do that. I know that we can teach all of our kids, but he's by no means, I mean, my child's exceptional, but in this realm, he's not exceptional. We can teach our children how to do this. It takes a while, and we have to be diligent about it. And we're going to be talking about that all this week, how we teach perspective taking. I know we did some of that last week, but we'll try to filter everything we do through perspective taking. Okay, so there's our jargon of the day. We also like to always give you a question of the day. Our question of the day today is, does your child engage in perspective taking with you or their friends? You know, it's interesting, and I shared this last week, that my child doesn't always engage in perspective taking. Good heavens, I don't always engage in perspective taking. There are times when something will happen and I go, oh, I didn't even consider what that might have been like for this person in light of X, Y, and Z, right? I think we're all guilty of that. So it's not unusual that my child doesn't completely engage in perspective taking, but when he does, I tend to notice it because we went so long when he didn't. And one of the big times that I thought, oh my goodness, I really think he has this, was right before his 8th birthday. We were having a big birthday party for him because he was also graduating from his ABA program. He had 5 years of intensive ABA from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And I'll tell you that I couldn't wait for the day that he graduated, right? I just couldn't wait. But as the date approached, I kept feeling like, I don't know if we're ready for this. I don't, by that point I was like, let's just stay doing this forever. Why not? But he was done. He would, not to say that we don't still work on things, we do. We use the skills program, but he was really ready. He wanted to be with his friends, not with a therapist, which is a a key element of somebody being done. And there were times that we had the therapist go with the friends, but he was ready to be a boy and be on his own and do all kinds of things and saying that, and he was done. But I didn't know that he was really done until we were on the way over to the birthday party, and we'd had a big week with family visiting and a family trip, and we were on the way over to the party, and I said, now you're going to get some gifts tonight, and what do we do when somebody gives us a gift? And he says, well, we say thank you. And I said, what happens if you open it and it's not what you want? He goes, well, you still say thank you and you act like you really like it. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, because you don't want to hurt their feelings, Mom. That would be rude. If they picked it out for you, if they went to the trouble of picking it out for you, then they thought you were going to like it, and you wouldn't want to make them feel bad about that. Angels sing. It was a lovely moment. I think I burst into tears. In fact, I know I burst into tears and hugged him and just told him how proud I was of him. And, and he takes perspective like a champ. There are people he could teach about taking perspective, and I'm sure he will in his lifetime. Really, really wonderful. Are there still times that we have to explain to him that something is rude? You betcha. I told everybody the first day of school this year, he sat there and perseverated on the clock and watched it tick, 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 even interrupted the teacher at one point and said, I think the clock has stopped. That's how much he was perseverating on it. And one of the things that we talked about that night, I said, teacher, he said, I listened to everything she was saying. I don't understand what the problem is. And I said, she thinks that when she's sitting there and sees you looking at the clock, she thinks you're not listening to her, even if you are listening to her. And he was like, oh, okay. So she thought I was being rude. Yeah. So in any case, he changed the behavior, and it's all ever so much better. But we still have to explain sometimes. Look, but I have to explain that to myself sometimes. People have to explain that to me sometimes. There's other adults that I know that are not on the spectrum that we have to explain these things to. So we do. But I want to know from you, how does your child engage in perspective taking? Do they do it with you? Do they do it with their friends? Where and what? How? And again, I remind you guys that I think it's good for you to answer the question of the day, to speak up and say the things that your child is doing that are right. I think it makes the day go better, but it also has a big ripple effect for other people, because there are people who are out there who don't know that their child can learn perspective taking. Some people don't even know. I didn't know. I mean, I went through a whole year and I didn't know that that was something that was missing from my child's repertoire, from the things that he could do. It just hadn't occurred to me. And then once I did, it was within the context of people telling me, but we're working on it and he's going to get better at it. There are people out there who don't even know it's something that can be worked on, and certainly don't know that can be worked on with success. So share your experience, share your hope, share your strength, and people will learn from it. It's a really good thing. Okay. We always have a topic of the day, and in case you couldn't guess, our topic this entire week is going to be social skills, a really, really important component of any autism ABA program. Because we know, regardless of a child's diagnosis, whether they have an autism diagnosis, a PDD-NOS diagnosis, or they have an Asperger syndrome diagnosis, there is a component that is a significant social deficit. But we can teach social skills. We do teach social skills, and we see, and there's lots of studies to show that there's great success that can be had teaching social skills. So we'll filter everything that we do this week through the social skills. Just one of the things that really important for us to talk about. And to that end, some of the things that we're going to be doing today, we kind of a light day today. We're going to be talking about stress, really important. We always talk about that on Monday because Monday is stress day, right? We have a language tip for you. We have a funding tip for you. And I got a lot of interesting things that I want to talk to you about today that I think we're trying to make things as useful for you as possible. So we've got some information about making a morning routine more reduced stress, not stress less. I mean, let's not be crazy, right? If we could get to a stress-less morning routine, boy, there'd be a book. But how to reduce the stress. And also, we're going to talk about some things that we can teach our children that will really help us as parents, because we're going to reduce our stress. And it will help them in terms of social skills. We're going to talk about how to teach our children how to get in and out of a car with less fuss. Ooh, very exciting. And we're going to talk about teaching our children how to make a snack on their own. So a really full day of tips and suggestions of how we can journey down this path, help them to reach their fullest potential, and reduce our stress. And of course, like I said, we have a funding tip. Okay, big excitement. Stick with us. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with our stress tip for the week. Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some guesses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christy and Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It's that time of the week when we talk about stress. Ooh, stress, stress, stress. I'm an autism parent, and for those of you who are autism parents, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. This is a stressful journey. And fortunately, people have recently done studies to corroborate that it's stressful. Thanks. Glad you did some research on that. It's stressful. And the thing that's really important that we remember, because I know in the beginning I did not get this, and people said it to me and I didn't get it, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. And there were so many times when I knew it was important for me to rest. I got that. I mean, I'm not ridiculous, right? But I would say to myself, well, I'll rest tomorrow. I'll rest next week. I'll rest next year. There were so many things to do, and I felt like I was on a treadmill and I didn't want to slow down. And you guys know, if you watch the show, that I share that I ended up getting sick. It really came home to me then that if I didn't take care of myself and if I didn't prioritize rest, then I wasn't going to be around to be on the treadmill. I wasn't going to be there for the marathon. I wasn't even going to be there around the bend. And it's so important that we remember that if we're going to be an effective and efficient member of this team, we have to show up and be healthy and be in our right minds. And if you don't get enough rest, man, you're not going to get it done no matter how hard you try. And not only that, it's going to take you twice as long to get done what you want to get done. So a couple of tips that we have for getting rest. And the first one, you know, it sounds ridiculous. All of this sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to say it anyway because I need to be reminded of this almost on a weekly basis. And I know I'm not the only one, but we have to prioritize rest. You know, I have a friend who does a weekly schedule of all the things that she's going to do, but the first thing that she does before she puts anything else in is she puts when she's going to sleep. Now, doesn't that sound ridiculous? Because we all know we're going to sleep at some point every night, but she puts down that she is going to sleep at 11 o'clock at night, and then she adheres to that. And I have to be honest, it's crazy smart, because sometimes something happens at 10:55 and you go, oh, I have to fill out this one last piece of paperwork. And it's important. It's absolutely important. But is it as important as your health? Because it probably could be done at 8:15 in the morning. And if you were to be rested, it could be done in 8 minutes. Whereas if you sit up to do it at 11 o'clock when you're exhausted, it's going to take over an hour. And then the things that you were going to do at 8:15 aren't going to get done right because you're going to be behind the whole time. So prioritizing rest, even if a lot of us that are autism parents have some sort of thing that we do to keep the schedule for OT and for physical therapy, and when our child has to be in what place to have ABA, we have that schedule. And I would ask you, you know, how willing would you be to say, oh, well, I'm just not going to put OT on the schedule and we'll see if it happens. I know, I can hear all of you going, I would never do that. Okay, but that's the kind of priority we have to give us getting rest. I know it isn't always possible because sometimes our child is interfering with that. We have the bedtime pass for that. If you didn't ask for the template for the bedtime pass, please do. We'll share that later on. But we have to prioritize our rest. It's got to be of paramount importance, and we have to take it seriously. It isn't something that we can say, oh, I'll catch up. We get too far behind. And then the second thing is that we have to recognize that there is constructive rest and there is non-constructive rest. It isn't essential that you always go to sleep. It may be, you know, a lot of people would say to me, oh, well, you should take a nap in the middle of the day. And I would want to just like yell at them and say, you have no idea what my life is like. A nap is not possible. And that may be true in your life as well, but we can't underestimate or understate the importance, we can't overstate, that's what I want to say, the importance of constructive rest. That sometimes just taking 5 minutes and laying down and closing our eyes and resting can be as beneficial as taking a nap. Sometimes you wake up from a nap and you're disoriented and you just can't get back into the swing of things, but constructive rest is something that can be very useful to us. It can be as simple as laying on your back with your knees up so that the pressure is off your hips, closing your eyes, breathing deeply for 5 minutes. Really, really, really beneficial for you. And then, of course, our last tip is set yourself up for success. I know it seems like it takes so much more energy, but if we take the time to exercise and have our children exercise during the day and get them real and truly worn out, not to the point where they're ill, of course. We want to be commonsensical about this, but giving our children a chance to be physically engaged so that they are tired by the end of the day. Setting them up with that bedtime ritual and with a bedtime pass so that they're more likely to go to sleep. And then as soon as they're asleep, going back to one, prioritizing our sleep. Please, if I could count the number of times that I finally got my child to sleep and that I said, okay, now I can go do the laundry. Now I can go do the dishes. Now I can go do the work that I need to do, and didn't rest instead. If the only time that we have, and in the early days of autism, very likely it is the only time, if the only time we have to rest is when they're resting, then it has to take priority over the dishes and over the laundry. I know it adds up, but also our lack of sleep adds up, and no amount of having the laundry done can fix the lack of sleep. And there does come a time when the laundry and the dishes will get in the way of what you're doing with your child, but it takes much longer for the laundry and the dishes to pile up to that point than it does our lack of sleep. So set ourselves up for success. You know what they say to people who have new babies? Make sure you rest when the baby rests. Yes, that stops for them at some point, but for those of us with kids with autism, it takes much longer to stop. I will tell you that eventually, if you show up and have enough of the right stuff over the right amount of time, the day will come when you will get caught up on sleep and you can stay up to do some things after your child has gone to sleep. But until you get to that moment, and I think it's a minute-by-minute basis. Somebody said to me this last weekend, and as I said, earlier, everybody got a little ill in our house this weekend, and I sat down on the couch and fell asleep. And somebody reminded me that if you sit down and fall asleep within minutes, you haven't had enough rest. So I have to remind myself the priority of rest. I hope that you guys will as well. It will make us better equipped to deal with all the things that are coming our way, the good stuff and the stuff that isn't easy. If we're rested, we can handle it. So find the time, prioritize the rest. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it is time for our language tip of the week, and we're talking about manding, how to get our children to mand more frequently. So stick with us.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son, Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all provided.
Which is wonderful. And listen, I have to say, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely loves to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're talking about teaching language and in particular teaching manding. For those of you who are new to the world of autism and new to the world of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, manding is when our children request or demand something. And it's something that very early on we want all of our children to be able to do. It's important to remember that a demand isn't necessarily something that involves speech, that a child can request something by sign or by pointing or gesturing. But if we can, we want the child to eventually get to the point where they're requesting for things by the label that they want. So we want to hopefully move into an area where a child says, cookie for a cookie, right? But every step along the way is vital and important towards making that happen. And we always talk about functional communication. As long as the child is manding in the beginning, this is huge. So if the child is pointing towards the cookie and going, that's verbal communication. That's functional verbal communication, and it's something to be celebrated and something to be encouraged. One of the things that we always talk about when we talk about ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, is that in order for any behavior to be maintained and happen over and over and over again, it has to be rewarding. Well, the great thing about manding is that we have an opportunity to have the reward match the request. Isn't that awesome? So there are a couple of things that we want to do to get our children to mand as much as possible. For a neurotypical child, between the ages of, say, 1.5 and 2.5, they're manding thousands of times a day, they tell me. This is crazy making to my autism parent mind, because my child was not doing that when he was 2, was not doing it at 2.5 when he was diagnosed with autism. But I know that when therapists came in and started working with him, his manding went up exponentially. And as soon as his manding went up, guess what happened to his challenging behaviors? They diminished greatly. Because if you can get something by requesting it, you don't need to expend all the energy to throw a tantrum. It's pretty amazing. So how can we get our children to mand as parents? What are some things that we can do to help it along the way? Well, here are 3 quick, easy suggestions about having manding happen more and more in your home. The first one is to tempt. Notice I didn't put tease. I think there's a fine line there, but you know, if you know that your child likes cookies and you're trying to teach manding, you've got a manding program going on in your house and you want to up the number of times that they mand, it might be time to start making some cookies and having the cookies out where the child can see. You might even pick up a cookie and hold the cookie up. Now, we don't want to tease a child by offering it to them and taking it away, but we want to put it far enough away that they can't quite get to it. And you know, there are times when a child might reach for a cookie, and what we'll do is just pull it back 1 inch or so and then tell them what we want them to do to demand for it. If you've got a child who's already making sounds, you might say to them, say cookie, or just cookie, or you know, whatever it is that you're trying to get the child to do, or you're giving them the sign for cookie, which I think is this. Don't remember as much anymore. My son used to do sign, and then we moved into speech. But, you know, but not to tease. And then the second that they make the attempt, we're going to give it to them or give a part of it to them. So the first thing is to tempt. The second thing is to reinforce immediately. I think that that's one of the hardest things early on to learn, is that it needs to be immediate. You know, I'm trying to teach my son right now, that he's 9 years old, was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. I'm trying to teach him how to reinforce our dog and the importance of reinforcing immediately. And it's still really hard for him, that he'll ask our dog to do something. He'll say sit, and the dog sits. And then my son is busy dealing with the biscuit. And I'm always sitting there saying, it's got to be now. Don't make her wait for it, because otherwise she's going to think that she's being reinforced for what happened after she sat down, not the sitting down. Well, the same is true for our kids. Do it now. Reinforce immediately. The child says, "Kuh," and that's great for this particular child. Give that cookie to them. And of course, the last thing is to condition praise. You might have a child that right now you know, you could say, yay, and it's no big deal to them. You could say, good job, it's no big deal to them. It's not reinforcing to them. Well, when you're working on manding, it's an ideal opportunity to be piggybacking praise onto it, because you know they're going to get the reinforcement of the thing they asked for, right? Heap praise onto that so that eventually, at some point, they're going to find praise reinforcing. It will happen. So these three kinds of things, if you will engage in them minute by minute, anything at all, whether you're playing with a toy, whatever it is, the child, you know, your phone is out there, you know that they like your phone, you put your phone out there and you hold it up to them and you make the sign for phone, or you point to your lips and say phone, and the child goes, whatever it is, you give it to them and you say, good talking, good asking. We don't say good manding to them because they don't know what manding is, and we don't need to teach them what manding is. We just need to teach them that when they do it, they're going to get reinforced immediately and they're going to get praised. When we do this, we create a different world in our home, a different place where our children want to participate in this back and forth conversation. Again, it doesn't have to be verbal, it can be sign, whatever, or it can be pointing. If the child is grunting for the thing, wherever they are at this moment in time, we want to reinforce it. Then gradually, we're going to move the goalpost a little bit more over. So if they're grunting and pointing, great, that's fabulous, reinforce it. And after time, once we see that they get it, that if they're pointing and grunting, they get the thing, then we're going to make it just a little bit harder. So if they're grunting, if we're saying cookie and they're going, we're going to get them to go, and then we reinforce. So we're going to move the goalpost as we go, but so important to get our children manding. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to move closer to language. And it is also something, as I said, when manding goes up, challenging behavior goes down. It's really a good thing. All right, so there's our manding tip for today. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have another tip for you on success at school morning routine. So stick with us.
ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, was founded in 2004 by several passionate parents who believe that access to early, effective treatment is vital for individuals with autism. Together with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pache, the world's leading provider of therapy for autism, this group created ACT Today to do just as the name implies, take action immediately to treat autism spectrum disorders.
A lot of families and parents and even physicians don't yet accept the fact that we are recovering children with autism.
In 2006, inspired by her struggle to get treatment for her young son Wyatt, television producer and author Nancy Alspaugh Jackson and her husband Reed hosted a backyard benefit for the foundation called Denim and Diamonds for Autism. Tens of thousands of dollars were raised, and in 2008, Alspaugh Jackson took the helm of ACT Today as executive director.
This country has to come together to save a generation of children.
With a dedicated board of directors, a small but committed staff called the A-Team, as in autism, ACT Today is making a huge difference in the lives of children across the country. Grants that fund programs for behavior therapy, special needs schools, and summer camps. Medical needs like diagnostic tests and special diets. Basic safety equipment such as helmets for children who repetitively bang their heads, and fencing for those who wander. Assisted technologies and assistance dogs.
Hi, my name is Max, and I love my iPad too. It's so great. I can take photos.
In 2010, ACT for Military Families became the first national campaign to benefit military children with autism.
I'm Joe Montaigne. As a father of a daughter with autism, I know the challenges that brings.
ACT Today continues to educate and raise national awareness on the need for early and intensive intervention for an epidemic that affects at least 1 in 110 children.
I called on November 1st. And I'm like, how am I going to get notified? How are you going to let me know? And they ended up looking and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above.
Act Today, fulfilling its mission of helping families with autism, one child at a time.
Welcome back to Autism Live. For a lot of us, our children have gone back to school in the last couple of weeks. It's a really exciting time, but it can be very stressful. And getting back into the swing of getting everyone out the door and where they need to be and prepared for a day, stressful. And we had a question of the day a couple of weeks ago where we were asking all of you what are your most stressful time of the day, and a lot of you wrote in about morning routine. And we had some suggestions from experts about how we can make the morning routine a little bit easier on all of us, because I know it's stressful for me as a mom, and I'm always trying to think of how can I get my child through the door of the classroom in the most conducive state to learning. So I want him to be relaxed, I want him to feel good, I want him to be prepared, and I don't want him to be an emotional mess and feel all rushed. I don't want that for me, but I surely don't want that for him. And so I took all the suggestions that the experts gave us and kind of honed them down to 4 little tips that we can do to help ourselves, because this is sort of my mantra for the morning now. So one of the first things that we need to do, again, set ourselves up for success by being prepared. If there's anything, if you look at all the different things, and sometimes it's useful if you're a list maker to make a list of all the things that have to happen in the morning for everyone to get out the door, for you to get out the door, for anybody, any other children that you have, any partner that you have, what has to happen with the dog, what have to happen with the dishwasher, with the front door, and with your child on the autism spectrum. Make a list of all of those different things, and you will see why you are overwhelmed, because it's a lengthy list. But if you look at the list and say to yourself, okay, what isn't essential, first of all, what could go, and that's only going to be 1 or 2 things on the list of things, but what could happen before? What could happen before? Is there some element of making the school lunches that could happen before? Is there some element of the breakfast routine that could be streamlined and prepared ahead of time? Is there some element of the getting dressed or the toothbrushing that could happen before? We don't have to make ourselves crazy, because again, we don't want to be up until midnight getting ready for the morning, right? But if there is something that could happen, that while you're getting out the pajamas out of the drawer for the child to get into the pajamas, if you're taking out the clothes for school in the morning and sticking them on the dresser, it probably takes an additional 2 seconds, right? And then they're there to grab and go in the morning and make things easier. If there's a shelf in the refrigerator that you could on Sunday set up and say, this is all the different components of the school lunches. It doesn't mean that you have to make the sandwich ahead of time so that the sandwich is soggy, but if the bread and whatever is going on the sandwich are all in one shelf so that you can just grab without having to think, because I don't know about you, I'm foggy in the morning. So giving a mind to it, thinking like somebody who, and I know you guys think like this when you're getting your child to all the places that they need to get for their therapies, thinking about that with a morning routine and saying, okay, so what could be prepared ahead of time to make it less stressful for ourselves and less stressful for the child? So be prepared. And then, of course, the second thing, which we've already talked about, is simplify it. Just pare it down. Simplify what has to happen, what doesn't have to happen. You know, there are a lot of things that we could do in the morning if we were perfect people. I'm not a perfect person. And I'm going to guess that you're not even interested in being perfect, because that is so overwhelming. So how can we simplify it? If there's something that doesn't have to be done in the morning, let's put it off for another time. I love these people who, you know, have time in the morning to get up and put everything in the crock pot so that they come home and dinner is cooked. Well, that's lovely. But to me, that's just another form of stress in the morning. Maybe the night before I could do that, but not in the morning. Third thing that we want to do is, while our children are getting ready, is find opportunities to praise them. Let's not focus on the things that they're not doing, and let's not focus on the things that they're doing that are driving us crazy. Let's focus on any possibility that we have to praise them. And not, by the way, just our children on the autism spectrum, all of the members of the household, the dog, the partner, ourselves. and our kids, to find an ability, because if we all want to leave the door in a happy place and we want to get them in that door and have the best chance at success at school, that's hard to say, then we need to have them in the right mood where they feel like they're valued members of the family. So we're going to praise them and praise ourselves, cut ourselves all some slack. And then, of course, the last thing, if we can make this fun, sometimes that stress reduction can away. Now, how do you make a morning routine fun? Well, it depends on your kids, because different things are reinforced by different people. It may be for your child having, the pancake that they have a smiley face on it that's put on by the waffle iron that you have. It could be that, it might be the specific kind of breakfast. And by the way, if you don't have the waffle iron or your child isn't having waffles, there are lots of different ways you can put a smiley face onto a piece of toast or something. Sometimes we'll put blueberries, because my son can only have a couple of blueberries for breakfast, so there'll be like literally 2 blueberry eyes and maybe 3 for a mouth and 1 for a nose. What are we talking about? A total of 6 blueberries. And that makes the morning fun for him. Another thing that we like to do, because I'm very competitive, and apparently I have a child who's very competitive. I don't know how that could have happened, but ever since he was little, one of the ways that we've worked on fluency is by having races. How fast can you do something? So we'll do a thing where we'll have a challenge where how fast can you get your shoes on? Or how fast can you get totally dressed? Or how fast can you run upstairs and get your backpack? How fast, and we'll do like a little barter back and forth. Can you do it in 12 seconds? By the time I count to 12, can you do it in 15 seconds? And I count slow if it's taken him a little while longer, so that I can get to the praise. Because while I'm working on fluency, and it's important that he be able to do these things quickly, and it's important that we get out the door on time, the most important thing to me is that he gets into that classroom in a mindset where he feels like he can do it and that he wants to do it. Right? Don't we all want to show up for a day feeling like I'm a good person, I do good things, I'm capable of more? So I want to give that to him in the morning. So keeping the priorities straight about when I make it fun and make it competitive, that I ensure that he's going to win. That doesn't mean I make it easy, but I ensure that he's going to win. So we prepare, we simplify, we praise, and we make it fun. By the way, we do this for our kids, we do this for all the members of the family, but we do it for ourselves too. We're part of this team, and it's got to be streamlined for us. It needs to be fun for us. Ask yourself, what can I do for myself in the morning that will make me happier? Is there something you could be having for breakfast? Do you need to get up 5 minutes earlier so you have 5 minutes to be centered? I know if I wake up late and I'm running around and people are talking to me, I'm not ready for it yet. So ask yourself what you can do for yourself. And remember to praise, praise, praise yourself and your kids. And then we can have a happier, more productive morning. Okay. It's that time of the week when we get to introduce a new segment of the A Word. This is the wonderful documentary being made at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, featuring Jack Riley, a little boy who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. Now, in real time, he's already 3, but we've gone back to the beginning of the series, and I believe we're on episode 5 this week, and we're taking a look at what life is like now that the family has settled into therapy. So take a look. This is the A Word.
Great and awful.
Yeah, it's great progress, and it's hard to get used to. Last Friday was rough for him. At the end of the second week, he had a rough. I think every session was rough for him.
He's doing really well. Like I held up a green marker to him last night and asked him what color, and he said green.
Yeah,
no prompting.
Unprompted.
And black did the same thing.
Black and blue and green, he's doing okay.
The fact that he'll say colors without us telling him first, that's huge. But
he's trying to say everything.
It is.
He tries to say tangled.
Oh yeah.
He says cars really well, of course.
You say tangled?
Oh, yeah.
Say Bambi.
Oh, baby! Yeah, Bambi's fun. I'm excited that he's talking so much.
He's got a lot to say these days.
Aw.
Say
Red. Good talking.
Red is always hard for him, so that's awesome. He usually just says bleh for red. He'll just vocalize something.
Do whatever comes out.
They like it when I say something, so I'll say something.
I know, he's so quick to do it now.
You want the doll? Oh, she's pretty. Kiss her. Give her kisses.
Aww.
Give her kisses.
Clinic is where therapists come on the team together, as well as the supervisors and the parents and the child. And it's a great way to talk about his progress, and if the parents have concerns about the programs that we're doing or problem behaviors that come up. It's just a great way for us to have communication with each other and be on the same page, so we're consistent with everybody that's involved, parents, therapists, and supervisors. Oh, you found it. What is that?
Oh no.
What is it? Guitar, yeah.
Guitar.
So we're having him man for things, meaning we're having him request for things, and if he knows the label, we're having him say the label. So, I mean, approximations are okay, but as long as he's asking us for something, instead of having us just give it to him, so that requires him to talk even more. Which book do you want? Which one? Mickey book? Whoa! Do you want the Mickey book or the Thomas book? Which one? Jack Riley? No. Hey, kiddo. Which one? Thomas book or Mickey book? No. Which one, Jack Riley? No. Do you want the guitar? Guitar? Yeah? Okay. All right. That's okay. Here. Look. Look. We're going to show Suzanne that you know what a car is. Okay. Here. Touch car. Good. What is it? It's car. Okay. What is it? Good job. Good job, kiddo. You gotta look better though, okay? Let's sit up and look at it. There we go. Wow, you gonna show Suzanne the car?
Vroom, vroom.
Touch car. Good. What is it? What is it? Say car. Good. What is it? Good job. Oh, that's Suzanne.
Hi.
Hold on.
Oh, you want to see? You can't see yourself. You got to be on the other side, silly.
Woohoo! See? Do you see yourself?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of talking by himself. No way. I know. He wants to have a conversation so badly today.
I know.
I know. You got a lot to say today. How else do you feel? Huh? How else do you feel today? Do you feel happy? Touch car. Good job. What is it? Car. Very good. Say, look, Dad, I did it. I did it.
Good job.
No?
What are you calling that? If you say touch the thing in your hand.
Oh, what we're doing is we're having one of the objects is one of the labels that we want, which is car, which is what we're working on, and we have a distractor. So we want to see the object that we're focusing on with something else to see if you actually can discriminate between the two. So I mean, so our goal is just to see if you can pick the right object, basically. Touch. Hold on. Touch. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay.
Go.
Okay. Touch. Touch car. No, try again. Try again, okay? Okay. Last one. Touch car. Yeah, touch it though. Touch car. Good, what is it? What is this? What is this? Yes, car. Okay. Someone helping him to stop? Okay, yeah. Hi! That's the first time I've seen him really say hi. Well, he's very interested with,
Did he just say hi?
Yeah, he said hi.
He did.
And he looked at the camera and he said,
No, he doesn't. That's seriously.
I've never seen him
heard
say
him
hi
say
to anybody, that's like the first thing we want him to say to our families and stuff. Is just say hi. He says bye-bye.
Okay, come on, buddy.
Let's go. Go, Dad. Bye-bye.
That's the A word. Welcome back. Love this series, and I'm loving watching it all over again from the beginning. I believe this is episode 5, and we're about 2 weeks. Theirs, by the way, is their, Emily is showing you, they have their very own YouTube channel, so you can go and watch the entire series. You can go back to the first episode, or you can watch what happened most recently. Pretty amazing, this little boy and this progress. I love this series because, you know, we're not getting to see everything. There's no way that we could see everything. Nobody has the time to sit and watch every available moment. But I think you're getting a really fair representation of what happens when a family starts therapy. And I can say that because we also had our child go through ABA therapy with the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. In fact, Jessica, the one of the therapists that Jack Riley has that's featured in the series, was also at one point one of my son's therapists. So, also incidentally, very coincidentally, the supervisor on the case was also our supervisor. So, you know, it reminds me of a piece of my life very strongly. And I always say I love so many things about this series. I love that you get to see the arc of ABA, but I love that we get to hear from the parents about emotionally what's happening with them. I think that this is an undercovered aspect of autism that there's so many things about autism that people don't know. And one of them is how much progress our children can make, right? There are a lot of people out there who just don't know that there's that much progress to be had. A lot of people don't know what it's like to have an intensive ABA program in your house. And even when somebody does, they don't understand what it's like for the family, the emotional journey that this is. So I love that we get to see all of those things on the A word, so that it's there. If somebody wants to take the crash course, mini crash course, in a very entertaining format, to be able to see, they have the opportunity, and that's a lovely thing for me. When people ask me about what it was like, I say, you know, go watch the A word. It's showing you. And I so appreciate this mom and this dad, this family, for allowing us to come into their home. And I've said this before, I love the mom. She is so peaceful and centered and honest and fabulous. I do not relate to that at all because I feel like I was never peaceful and centered and whatever. I tend to relate more to the dad. I think it's kind of the flip of how it was in our household because my husband is very, you know, quiet and centered and, you know, seems to be at peace, even though I'm sure that at times, you know, I know that he wasn't always, but, you know, the dad's a little bit more outspoken, he's a little bit more emotional, and, you know, has all the gamut of emotions that, you know, I'm uncomfortable, I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, you know, so I tend to relate to the dad. And, you know, I'm sure that for everybody it's a little bit different, but did you hear what the dad said at the beginning when they said, so how's it going? You're 2 weeks in, how's it going? And he said, well, the mom said, well, there's a lot of progress. And the dad said, yeah, there's a lot of progress. And it's hard to get used to. love this dad, because you know what, that's the reality. That, you know, you see, they come into your house and they set up and they start to make progress with your child, and that's hard to get used to because everything is changing every day, right? You're glad, you're thrilled that the progress is there, but you have strangers in your home and they're working with your child and your child is changing, and it's a good thing. It's still not easy. It's still not easy. It's like having an alien ship descend on your house and saying, we're going to change everything. It's really uncomfortable. It's worth it. It's worth it. And you don't see this dad saying, but you know, it's hard to get used to, so we're going to stop. He's not saying that. But I love that he's honest about it. I love that he's honest about it because it is hard. And anybody who tells you it's not hard isn't telling you the truth. But the other side of that coin is it's so unbelievably worth it. And it's fascinating to me now to go back and watch Jack Riley. I'm going to get emotional about it because you forget. He's not my child, and I've already forgotten where they started. And did you see that moment when they were at clinic? And I'll talk about clinic in just a second, where the mom, she's doing so good because even though he's not responding, she is keeping up the vocal, talking to him about everything, saying, say this and do that. And she says, oh, is the doll pretty? And he's no response, right? And she says, well, kiss the doll. Well, kiss the doll. And he doesn't look at his mom. He's looking at the doll. He doesn't kiss the doll. It's as though it doesn't register. But I love the fact that the mom keeps the vocal repertoire up because there's an opportunity for him to learn receptively. We'll see over time that when she says something that she needs to follow through with it. So she's asking him to kiss the doll. Eventually we're going to see that she goes over and has him, physically prompts him to kiss the doll whether he wants to do it or not, right? But a lot of times what we do is we stop talking. If they're not engaging with us, we stop talking. We don't want to do that. So I appreciate that she does that. But the child is not responding. He isn't. He's not looking at her as she says that he's not checking back when mom says, isn't the doll pretty? He's not shaking his head and going, yeah, the doll's pretty, and showing the doll to mommy or showing the doll to anybody else. He's not engaging in that. And we'll see that that changes really quickly through the ABA, and that they've already started to work on how they're going to make that happen. I'm going to come back to that in a second, but I want to talk briefly about clinics. Whenever you're doing intensive ABA with a provider, regularly there should be meetings in which you get together with the team to see what's happening with the child, to exchange ideas, to try new things, and so that everybody can see it. It is a wonderful opportunity. You know, as a parent, a lot of the time you're in the other room. That does not mean that you should be off doing other things or take up knitting, right? And I know that none of you are, so that's ridiculous that I even said that. But when our child is in the other room, hopefully you've got a video baby monitor so that you're watching what's happening and you're listening to what's happening. You're going to learn so much about what you have to uphold when they leave. Really, you know, that's how I took my crash course in ABA, was by sitting and watching the baby monitor. So that's really important, but you're not there, and so you may miss finer points of what's happening or may not understand why are we doing this lesson. Well, when you have clinic, and in the beginning it should be fairly frequently, at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, when a child starts, there is a 2-hour clinic every 2 weeks that the family will come to and sit with everybody on the team, and the person who is designing the program is there, and they run through all the programs, all the lessons that the child is learning, and they tweak little things and they check to see what they should be working on next. It's a very emotional thing for a parent. It was for me. I guess I can't say that for everybody, but you get to see the progress. You get to see this group of young people who are working with your child up close and personal. Even if you've been hearing it on the monitor, seeing it up close and personal is amazing. And then somebody who has so much experience tweaks something, and you get to see what happens as a result of that tweak. That is often amazing, absolutely amazing progress that happens right there. And you see, it's also a great time for a child because all these people, all these professionals are trained to praise, 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 praise whenever the child does something that's great. And so I love to go to the 3rd floor here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters, because that's where the therapy rooms are. And the doors are shut. You're not seeing anybody in the room, but if you walk down the hallway, you'll hear people talking, and then you hear, yay, over and over and over again. It sounds like there's just a series of party rooms that are up there because you hear the families and the team celebrating with the child. And I think that it's something that's really amazing, because one of the things that happens is that, when mom and dad praise, you see at the end of this video where the therapist is there and working with the little boy, and she asks him, which one is the car, and he's already being able to differentiate which one is the car and which one is not the car. And he says car, and she says, yay, good job. And the dad comes in and he goes, yay. And the child walks away with the car. And watch it again. We'll show it again tomorrow. But the child is not reinforced by the fact that his dad went yay. He isn't. It means nothing to him. It is not currency to him right now. But dad has to keep doing it, because at some point we want it to be reinforcing. Well, it is now. It's very reinforcing when dad says to him, yay, good job. But part of what happens at clinic, when you have a team of people all going, yay, it's hard to miss. And you see the child turn and kind of like go, what just happened? Something in my environment happened. And it's a beginning. It's a beginning. It's like, that little crack in the armor, and we get to get in, because they go, oh, they're all happy that I'm doing this. And over time, we see that that's enough sometimes later on for them to do something, because it makes all of us really happy. And they start to leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's really kind of amazing. So I think that this particular episode really demonstrates some of the different things. If you were with us watching a couple of weeks ago, we were watching where Jack Riley was then, and we go back to this point, and you really see some of the things that are missing. What we see now is that Jack Riley is more reinforced by people than he is by things. But in this video that we just saw, he's about the car, not about his dad. He's about the doll, not about his mom. And he doesn't want to share the car with dad, and he doesn't want to share the doll with mom. And that's not what's happening now. Now, Jack Riley has the doll, and mom says, oh, she's beautiful. And he goes over to her and shows her the doll, and then looks at the doll and looks at mom, and they share words. This is where we want to be. This is where we want to be. So lovely, lovely. I adore the A Word. I hope that you will go to their YouTube channel and watch and learn and share. Fabulous, fabulous A Word. And we'll continue to show this episode all this week, because there's so much in there to talk about. So much in there to talk about. Okay. But it's time for us to take a break. When we come back, we're going to check in on Facebook to see what you guys have written for the question of the day. Last week, we barely got a chance to get to any of them, so we might visit a couple of days worth of questions of the day and their answers. Stick with us.
Skills is a revolutionary web-based program that incorporates comprehensive assessment, curriculum design, progress tracking, and treatment evaluation for children with autism all in one place. Developed by the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Our approach is based on over 40 years of research on the principles of learning and their application to improving the lives of children with autism. How does Skills work? Created with speed and simplicity in mind, Skills was modeled on an easy 3-step process. Step 1. Start assessment. Step 1 begins with our intelligent assessment system, which consists of a series of questions. This assessment is essential to identifying your child's level of skills compared to their typical peers across all areas of development. This includes assessing social, motor, language, adaptive, play, cognition, executive functions, and academic skills. Every skill has an assigned age which indicates when the skill emerges during typical development. This means that each child is automatically presented only with lessons that are relevant to his or her age. Step 2. Choosing activities. It's now easier than ever to build an individualized treatment plan. In Step 2, you are presented with an individualized pool of activities that are directly linked to your student's assessment results. Each activity represents a specific skill that has been indicated by the assessment as needing to be taught. Activities are categorized by curriculum and then by lesson. There are 3 main types of skills: building blocks, fundamental, and expansion skills. Fundamental skills are necessary for successful everyday functioning. Building blocks are prerequisites to a fundamental skill. Expansion skills are non-essential skills, but may provide further enrichment in certain areas. After reviewing the activities available to you, you can quickly add your chosen activities to the treatment plan by simply checking the box and clicking the button. Step 3. Start treatment. Once you have selected and added the activities you want, you are ready to begin teaching. Skills provide you with all the tools necessary to design and manage an effective curriculum plan, such as printable activity guides that are customizable by the teacher, supplemental teaching aids including printable data sheets, teaching guides, visual aids, worksheets, and tracking forms, detailed IEP goals and benchmarks for each activity, brief and visually appealing video tutorials, a variety of treatment progress and clinical timeline charts, and lots more. And since Skills is completely web-based, everything you need is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in one easy-to-access location. Skills users even benefit from unlimited access to a support community where they can ask questions and share ideas with a skills expert. Skills is always with you.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Every day we ask you guys a question and invite you to participate on Facebook or on Twitter or via email or phone or Skype, however you prefer, to answer the question of the day. Today's question of the day was, does your child engage in perspective taking with you or their friends? And we got a bunch of answers, and I'm going to go through some of them, but a lot of people writing in and saying no. If they're not, I want everybody to know you can be working on that because it can be achieved. Somebody wrote in and said, my daughter just tells me what she wants and that's it. Well, you know, we talked a little bit earlier about manding, and manding is nothing to be sneezed at, right? Manding is a huge prerequisite before we start to work on a lot of other lessons. So sometimes it's just a matter of where your child is, but that's manding. If she tells you what she wants, that is an awesome skill that can be built on. But another person said, and asked a question that's completely unrelated, but it's important. They wrote in and said, what would make my daughter try and cut her own neck? Some say it's her medicine causing it. I wouldn't even begin to guess, but whenever we see any kind of self-injurious behavior, it is time to take action. Absolutely time to take action. We never want to take a wait and see, and we don't want to sit around and guess, right? And I know, you know, it sounds like you've been asking people, but if people are sitting around saying, oh, well, you know, maybe it's the medicine causing it, I'm hoping that they're taking other action to, if that's what they've determined, to do something about it. Because we never want our children to be in a place where self-injurious behavior is okay. And I know I say this to you, and we all know this because of course, right? But a lot of times you will go and talk to experts and they'll say, oh, it's this, and not give you a solution to the problem. Don't stand for that. Those aren't the people that you want to be working with. You want to request a functional behavior assessment from a BCBA, a board-certified behavior analyst who has not only experience with autism, but with self-injurious behavior. And I really want to encourage you to do it today. Today. There are lots of behaviors that we're going to work on as parents at home, that we're going to try different things out and see what works and see what's reinforcing to our kids. But whenever there's a chance that a child is going to hurt themselves or someone else, we are taking action immediately. We have to get into that mindset. And anybody who tells you to wait, or it's not, you know, a big deal, or it's the autism, get used to it, you need to fire them from the advice council. Fired. Because that's not true. We don't want to wait on anything, and it's saying it's the autism as if that's the response, or saying it's the medicine as if that's the response. No. We need to fix this. We need to have progress immediately. Going back to our question of the day, does your child engage in perspective taking with you or their friends? A lot of people wrote in, like this person who said, no, my son doesn't engage much at all. I hope it's just a matter of time, though, before you start on these lessons, because we can start on the road. We talked about this a lot last week with our experts. You can start on the road to perspective taking when children are very young by starting to work on joint attention. That what we were just talking about with Jack Riley, the idea that very small children, they've documented it as young as 15 months, I believe, are at a place where they will start to look at something and then look to a parent or a caregiver to see their reaction to it and then turn back to it. So I always picture, you know, watching on television or being at the zoo and we see the giraffe, and mom or dad or grandma or who the nanny says, oh, it's a giraffe, and the child looks at what they're pointing at, sees the giraffe, but then not only sees the giraffe, but looks back to be like, can you believe that? Even though there's no words yet, can you believe that? It's a giraffe. And then look at the giraffe and then look to see the reaction. And I mean, with completely typically developing children, we do this and we're making big faces, right? And going, oh, you know, it's a big giraffe, to get them to look back. We don't even realize that that's what we're doing, but we're creating this triangle of attention that you and I are looking at this thing and we're having reactions and we're sharing our reactions, and isn't it cool? Sometimes our kids with autism miss that. So we can start very young, or, you know, somebody could be 45 and if they don't have the joint attention skill, we can start there and work on that with them and bring them into this circle of attention and make it reinforcing for them that we're looking at this together and we're looking at each other and looking at the thing and looking at each other. We can make it reinforcing for them. So if your child isn't engaged in perspective taking, ask yourself, do they do that? Do they do the joint attention? And if they don't, great place to start. By the way, there's great lessons for that in the skills program. Okay, this one I love, though. A parent who wrote in and said, my high-functioning ASD son can do this at times, perspective taking. It's very interesting to hear what he thinks someone else's perspective might be. Not wrong, but different than what I was thinking. We play perspective-taking games as well as joint attention games. Very good. With lots of practice and teaching, this is something that is socially important. With lots of practice and teaching him this is something that is socially important. Just got to get the context here. I think he'll learn this skill. I think he is learning this skill. My other guy, however, doesn't really care about others' perspective until he sees his sisters cry. Then he gets very upset. In his own way, he's learning that others have feelings. Isn't it interesting, because you got two children in the same family, but they're coming to perspective taking in different ways. It's not wrong. It's not wrong at all, but we have different places to start. I love that with the one son, she plays perspective taking games and joint perspective taking games. You know, I've shared before on the show that sometimes what we do whenever we're watching a movie together at home, we don't do this at the movie theater, and we always go over the social rules of at the movie theater we don't talk. But we, at home, my son and I sit and enjoy a movie together, and I'll always ask him questions. If there's somebody on the screen and something is happening and there's no dialogue, I'll say, what do you think they're feeling? What do you think they're thinking? And, you know, and he'll put it into words, and it's always fascinating. Again, you know, just like this mom is saying, sometimes it's not what I thought, but it's not necessarily wrong. Really very amazing. And we can do that with anything, whether it's a cartoon or sometimes I'll say, why do you think she's doing that? Or what do you think she's doing and why? What's going on inside her head? There's lots of different ways to ask. What do you think she's feeling? How does the other person feel about that? Does somebody know that she's doing that? How are they going to feel when they know? Trying to put all the puzzle pieces together to be able to get him to see it from that 360-degree perspective. And of course, this other child of hers that doesn't take other people's perspectives except when it's his sister. And when his sister is crying, then he gets very upset. Well, that's, of course, that's heart-wrenching. And we don't want to create circumstances in which the sister is upset, but obviously there's some kind of connection there. And, you know, maybe the perspective taking needs to start to happen with his sister and then be applied to the other brother. I don't know, but pretty fascinating. Another person, and I'm really struck by the people who have multiple children on the autism spectrum writing in today. Somebody who writes in and says, none of my three do. However, my 6-year-old for the first time asked if it hurts when he and his two brothers kill crickets. So that's a start, isn't it? It's fascinating how, you know, because it's the thing that's reinforcing to them, right? When and how and where they ask the questions that you go, oh my goodness. My son can't have birthday cake because there's virtually nothing in a birthday cake that he can eat because of all of his food issues. And I remember him being at a birthday party when he was 5 and sitting there, and all the other little 5-year-olds were staring at him and you know, thinking that he was weird because he wasn't eating cake. But I don't think too many of them were stopping to think about what did it feel like to be him. But he turned and said to, because we had a therapist with us at this birthday party, he turned to the therapist and said, what does cake taste like? Do you like it? Does it make you happy? Really lovely, really, really lovely. Okay, and I'm not sure that I completely understand this one, but somebody wrote in and said, I have a friend and she has Asperger's, and she came to me at school crying because she was only trying to be friends with something, and she's very sensitive, and a lot of kids with Asperger's, with autism and Asperger's do that, and that's sad. You know, I so appreciate that this person wrote in, and I hope that if you've got a friend who comes to you, Asperger's, autism, nothing, right? If a friend comes to you and says, I'm feeling sad because I want to be friends with someone, I hope that you take the opportunity to be that person's friend, because it's the right thing to do. It's the absolute right thing to do. But thank you for sharing that. We have other sites that I want to look at. I don't know if we're going to get to the ones we did from last week, but I encourage you guys to look at the questions from last week. We just didn't end up having time because we had so much going on, which is good. Okay, another person who says, unfortunately, no, that their child does not engage in perspective taking, but I hope and pray that you guys are working on it. I'm just seeing some pictures here that are just fascinating. Not seeing the question on this site, so it may not be there. Okay, that's all right. It is time for us to take a break anyway, and when we come back, I want to take on talking about the routine of getting into the car. You know, when you've got a child who if you're trying to do the carpool and you're trying to get the child into the car or out of the car for that matter, how can we work on this? How can we help our kids to do this in a way that it's quicker and safer and less stressful? So we're going to talk about that when we come back. Stick with us.
I am Karen Driscoll. I'm a Marine Corps wife and mother of 3. My oldest son has autism. The strains on our typical military families are extraordinary. You add on the challenges of autism, access to care issues, and at times having to pay for effective treatments, and these families are pushed to the brink. We've lived in 5 different homes. That means 5 different medical communities, 5 different school districts, and 5 different state-run programs. The biggest challenge I face as a mother is going from bottom of wait list to bottom of wait list, never getting access to the effective services our children require. I feel like I'm constantly fighting for these services. We are working on a bill in Congress called the Caring for Military Kids with Autism Act that works to true up these policy deficits. You ask any service member overseas today, what can we do for you? They will always answer, please take care of my family at home.
Visit autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're going to talk about the getting into a car thing in just a minute, but we had some questions and comments and statements on the Autism-Live site that I want to address. Somebody wrote in and said, "Hi Shannon, my son is a mainstream 3rd grader who really enjoys playing with girls. I don't want to encourage girl play with my son, but I know that a lot of girls his age are more patient with his language skills. While most of the boys are on the playground playing sports, my son is with a group of girls singing, etc. He's done sports camp, so he knows how to play. I just think the typical boys don't have the patience to wait for him to catch up. Kind of frustrating." Yeah, I feel you here because I just want to make sure I'm showing this. We share some of the same issues because I think that right around that age group, my son is in 4th grade right now, that it's a bit of a transition for boys. And we saw this with some of the kids that my son hung out with a couple of years ago, that some of them come to it earlier, and I really think it reflects some of the things that are going on at home. Like sometimes it's they have older siblings. I'm talking about the other boys, not our boys. I remember when my son was in 1st grade, he had one friend, and my son is very touchy-feely. He likes to hug everybody. He likes to hold hands with people. And we were going someplace where we all needed to hold hands, in my estimation. I'm a big, let's hold hands with the children kind of person. And you know what? I don't make too many apologies for that because I think it's a good thing to do. And I'm sure already I'm trying not to hold my son's hand as much, but he was in 1st grade. Give me a break. And one of the other little kids that we were with, my son went to hold his hand and the other little boy said, "Oh, I don't hold hands anymore with other boys. My dad says it's not cool." Okay. Excuse me. And what are you going to do? Like, I wanted to go to his father and go, really? Really? You think that with a 6-year-old you got to start with that? But, everybody gets to parent their kids how they want to parent their kids. Is it frustrating? Yes, it really, really is frustrating. And you see that right around 3rd grade, more and more the boys tumble to this whole thing about, I got to be cool, I got to be emotionally removed, I have to be aloof, which is not interesting or fascinating to me. And last year I was all about, well, I'm not participating in that. And it cost my son socially. So I hear you on this one. I do think that it's one of those things we got to take it minute by minute and find the balance of girls at that age are kind of bossy. So they, on the one hand, they're more patient with our children's verbal skills. They also like to be with our kids because they can boss and say, you do this, and our kids will go along with it. So there are good aspects to it and bad aspects to it, or well, not bad, but less than desirable aspects to it. And I think the singing thing, how wonderful is that? But at some point we have to get them involved with the boy stuff. And I think it's great that your child went to sports camps. You're better than I, because I have not managed to make that happen because it just isn't reinforcing enough for him. However, I do think it's important to pick one or two things that the boys do on the playground and really start to work on them at home and work on making it the most reinforcing thing that that your child does when they come home from school. And we can do this by pairing something with it that is more reinforcing. So pull out the big guns, whatever you have at your disposal, the thing that your child really wants, and say, you know, and if it means that you're having dessert for dinner for a week or so, well, life goes on. And then it becomes key to find one or two of the kids that are on the playground at the same time and invite them to come over to play the game outside the context of the playground, and then eventually, you know, have it morph into the playground. But it's, you know, so many steps. Getting your child a little bit more caught up, and then getting one or two other kids who are the boys who are playing on the playground to be on your side, getting them to participate, reinforcing them for being more patient, getting their parents, picking wisely, right? Picking that parent to, you know, be involved, making a paycheck for that kid, whatever it is, and getting your child to the point where they've got one or two people on the playground that will look out for them and include them and find it reinforcing. It's a lot of work. I'm still working on it. And it's frustrating because I think there's an emotional component of it where I just want to say, people, you should do this because it's the right thing to do. They're not going to. So we have to make it reinforcing for them. And I have some resentment there. I'll be honest with you. I have some resentment about that. But it's important for our child, for all of our children, that we get past that and find the way to make it so that they can be playing with the kids on the playground. Because I imagine it just gets worse as it gets older. And I know, you know, at some point junior high is coming up, and I think don't dissuade him from being with the girls, because I don't think that that's a bad thing to have a group of girls. But there is going to come that moment when that's going to be hard socially if it's just the girls. But I feel your frustration. I am right there with you, and maybe we can compare notes on how it goes. I'd love to hear if you're able to make some headway, because that's exactly what we're working on at home as well. Okay, somebody else who says, I wish I could have gotten at-home service for my 15-year-old when she was little. We had speech and OT, but no ABA. I had to figure a lot out on my own. And you know what? I can't even imagine. We had Emily Island in here last week, and I said to her, I said, you know, you're a pioneer, because she's got a 28-year-old son, and she's trying to help families to make that transition from teenage years to adulthood. And you know, she'll sit there and tell you there is not enough, that there's not enough research, there's not enough services, there's not enough information to go around, and she's trying to do something about it. And I think what's particularly tragic is that she had to do that when he was diagnosed, and she had to do that when he went to school, and she has to do it now that he's an adult. And I said, man, you're a pioneer 3 times over. And so I appreciate the fact that, you know, you showed up for your child, and you did not have access to what I had access to. You are a pioneer. You are a hero. I can't imagine how you accomplished the things that you accomplished. I don't know that I could have done it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have a really good friend that I went to college with, and we graduated from college, and she got married right away and had 2 sons, and her youngest son was very profoundly affected by autism, and she had volunteers coming in and out of her house, and she had a really, really rough go of it. And I talked to her now. I was clueless then, and I wasn't the support that I wish now I had been. And she'll always say to me, oh my gosh, the things you're doing with him and how much progress. And I say, and she feels bad about it, but I say, my goodness, you know, you didn't have access to this, and you still did amazing things. But I'll tell you the thing that I say to her more often than anything else, I say, you still have the ability to have access to these things. I know that it comes with that horrible of, I wish I could have had it when. I feel you on that. I can't even imagine what that's like. But the truth of the matter is that if she's 15 years old and you say that she's a girl, oh, there's things that could help her now at 15. And to have an in-home program now at 15, and insurance companies will fund that if you've got insurance. And the things that you could spare her now, if you do this at 15, are absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. So I hope that you're getting ABA now, or you're moving towards that direction, or you write to us and tell us what's in your way, because I know the things that are coming for a 15-year-old girl that could be so helped with ABA. Oh, the world of difference. So I encourage you, and thank you for writing in, because I think a lot of people need to hear that even if your child is 15, even if your child is 27, even if your child is 45, there are still things that ABA can do, still really, really important things, and tremendous progress that can be had right at this particular age. Let us know. What can we do to help you to make sure that happens for you? That's what I want to know. And then another person who wrote in and says, listen to your mommy daddy gut, it's usually right. Boy, I am a big fan of that as well. I think it's important to get experts to come in and help diagnose functions of behavior, but I think it's really important to always do the gut check for ourselves, because more often than not, there's something, we have an instinct, an inborn instinct, and usually the parent is right. But I can't overstate the importance of having experts to do function of behavior, because that, I think, is outside most of our area of expertise. Great comments, great questions. Keep them coming, you guys. We are going to take a short break and then come back and do the getting in and out of the car, and we're going to talk about funding as well. We might lump them into two segments together. Stick with us.
Just go like this. Can you see me? Puedes mirarme aquí? Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca Ishida. Say hi, Ethan. Hi. My son was diagnosed with autism in November 2004. With Ethan, almost immediately, we noticed things that were troublesome, that he just didn't sleep. He would vomit in the crib. There were a lot of sensory issues.
Then he'd have like 20 of the trains lined up, and if you came in and took one train out, just meltdown completely.
Guttural instinct is to think that there's nothing wrong. Who wants to look at their child and go, there's something wrong with that child? You don't. You always want to see the best in your child.
Will my kid be able to go to school? Will he interact with his peers? Will he be able to have a healthy relationship? Will he get married? I really thought that autism was like a death sentence. A lot of hope was given to me through CARD. This was my third agency, and the best agency we had. And there was no way in the world I was going to give up CARD because of the gains I saw Ethan was having.
Yeah, you did it!
And I remember when Doreen saw us for the evaluation, she says, but by the time he's 6, he will be recovered. And that's exactly what happened.
I'll fix that.
Welcome back. We've got a lot I want to cover in the next few minutes as we close out the show, but feel free to keep writing in your suggestions and comments. It's time for the DTT tip of the week. And in particular today, I want to talk about that moment when your child is getting in or out of the car, whether it's at home or in the carpool lane. It can be so stressful. I know getting my child to get in the car in the morning or to get out of the car when we're someplace and I'm standing there in the hot sun and, you know, I don't want to have to prompt 32 times, right? This is really something that we worked on before, and I see that I haven't maintained it well, and so we're going back and working on it. It's part of the reason why I want to talk about it today. So if we want to help our child to do any task, and if you think about getting out of the car, let's just take the carpool lane in the morning. You pull the car up and you're saying to the child, have a wonderful day, and somebody's opening up the door, and your child is expected to make that transition from getting out of your car and getting out of your care and step out onto the curb with somebody else and have their backpack and go from being in the dark car, you know, because it's got a roof on it, to being out in the sunlight and going from a place where there wasn't as much sensory stuff to all these kids and adults running around, going in the gate at school, and grab a hold of the backpack and remember to say goodbye and remember to watch for cars. It's a lot. It's a lot for a child to keep in mind. So what we want to do is we want to break it down. Break it down into little teeny tiny increments. So in the beginning, it may be that all we want to work on is the child unlatching their seatbelt themselves, so that you don't have to put your car in park and get out of your seatbelt and turn around and have your butt up in the air as you undoing the seatbelt. And do we do this in the carpool lane? Do we work on this in the carpool lane? No, we don't. We're going to work on this on the weekend or in the afternoon or when we come home. And we're going to give lots of different opportunities. We might even get something that has a latch like a seatbelt and work on it outside of the car, depending on what the sensory issues are. But we're going to make sure that we reinforce the getting the seatbelt undone. And again, picking your moment is really key, right? That we want to pick a time to just work on this element of it, latching and unlatching the seatbelt. And we're going to do it with errorless learning. We're going to sit there with a child. We're not going to be strapped into our seat. The car is not going to be someplace where it can be hit. It's going to be in the driveway or parked safely in a parking lot, wherever is safe for you, and where you can turn around or sit next to the child, whichever is better. You might want to be sitting next to them first, and then showing them and helping them and prompting them to use enough force to push down on it so that the seatbelt comes undone, and we're reinforcing that with praise and whatever else is reinforcing to the child, whether it's something that they enjoy eating or a drink of something or access to, a toy over a number of trials, whatever it is, but we're going to reinforce that aspect of it. Then, the next part might be teaching them how to take, now that it's unlatched, taking the seatbelt off and moving over to the side of the car, because a lot of us have our children sit in the center of the car. So having the physical aspect of scooching over to get to the door, and we're going to start doing it without a lot of sensory hubbub, right? We're going to do it at home where it's quiet. We're going to reinforce that. And then we're going to put these two skills together. How do you push the seatbelt thing, take the seatbelt off, and scooch over? We're going to reinforce before we ever take it to the carpool lane. We really are. In fact, we might even avoid the carpool lane and park the car and walk the child up until we've got it. Depending on what the individual child, then there's the whole stepping out of the car, and we're going to practice going from someplace quiet in the car to going someplace noisy and light before we do it in the carpool lane, so that eventually we can put all of these tasks together and put it in the carpool lane. But before we do that, we are going to make fluency fun, because we can teach the seatbelt, right? And we can teach taking it off and scooching over and stepping out of the car, right? But until we've taught the fluency of it, of doing it very quickly and efficiently, we haven't finished the job here, have we? So we might have a thing where we're going to practice it at home to see how quick can you do it, because you get a better prize if you do it quicker. Maybe you get a big stopwatch and you say, we're going to see how long it takes you, and just chart. So the first time they do it, it takes them 10 seconds. Can you beat that? Let's try it again. Can you do it in 8 seconds? You did! You did it in 8 seconds. Let's go to the bouncy house place or whatever it is. Let's see if you can get it in 5 seconds. How quick can you do this? If that doesn't work, make something else. Whatever it's going to take to be reinforcing for your child, but make the fluency of it fun for them. Then you take it to the carpool lane and you reinforce. And then you can work on the getting into the car, the carpool lane. But we can work on this and make it easier, but we just have to remember to reinforce and make it fun and break it down. Okay, that's our DTT tip for the week. Help your children to get in and out of the car fast and efficient and safely. Wonderful. Okay. And the next thing that I want to talk about on my list of things, because we're almost out of time here and I got things I want to squeeze in. I promised you guys a funding tip and I don't want to leave you without a funding tip. And so today I want to talk about funding for autism insurance 101. We've had a lot of people in here talking about what kinds of things we can do to get the ball rolling. So I've tried to narrow it down to 3 little things for you that I want you to do today to figure out whether or not you are eligible for insurance. That's what it starts with. So the first thing that I want to ask you to do is to know your state's status. Do you already have insurance reform? Has it already passed? Has it taken effect yet, or it's about to take effect? What are the laws for your state's insurance? It's not going to be the end-all answer, and we've given you a website here, www.autismvotes.org, but at least know where your state is in the realm of things. It's going to make it easier, because if you know that insurance reform has passed, it's going to help you to proceed in different directions. The next thing that I want you to ask you to do, and I want to ask you to do it today, is talk to your HR director, whoever your human resources director is, and say, hey, I'm aware of the fact that we do or we don't have insurance reform, but here's what I don't know. I don't know if our plan is covered. So I need to ask you some questions. Are we self-funded? Because if you're not self-funded and you already have insurance reform in your state, you're covered in all likelihood. In all likelihood, you're covered. If you are self-funded, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not covered, but it means you got to ask a host of more questions. And you want to ask the HR director, can you please find out for me if our insurance is going to cover ABA therapy for autism? Those are the words exactly. ABA therapy for autism. And ask the HR to do that. If you have to give them some sort of reinforcement, and be as nice as pie to them about it, because chances are they don't know. And they're going to have to do some research. That's their job. That's what they get paid for. Don't let up on them. Make them do it. And then I want you to find your state insurance contact. Every state now always has had some sort of insurance board. I know that in the state of California, you can go to their government site and then go to their insurance board. Find out who that is in your state. Easy way to do it is to Google your state's name and insurance, and you will find the government page, and go there to ask some questions, because and you might even want to give that organization a call to ask them if they have gap insurance. The gap insurance is available in some states for people who are in self-funded plans where they don't have insurance coverage right now, but the expectation is, with the current health care laws, that in January 1st of 2014 they will have insurance, and there are insurance companies who are offering you that gap insurance if you want to buy it now, which would make your child eligible to have ABA therapy covered by insurance now. So those are the three things that I think anybody should start with. Know your state status, talk to your HR director, and find out who the contact is for your state for insurance who can let you know what the situation is clearly and succinctly. Of course, there's going to be more to it, but these are the first three steps to get you started on the road of knowing exactly where you stand. This is an election year. It's so important that we all inform ourselves and know what's going to happen and what can be happening right now. If ABA can be paying for if ABA therapy can be funded by your insurance company right now, your child could be making progress right now. And progress is the name of this game. Progress, progress, progress. Okay, so that's our funding insurance tip for the week. We aren't going to have time to get to our adaptive tip for today, which was about teaching your child to create a snack, but I promise we'll squeeze it in tomorrow. We also are going to have an interview tomorrow with a dad who you may have seen a blog that was written last week about a visit to a local Target store. So we will have that for you tomorrow. We've got a really exciting lineup coming up all this week. In fact, on Wednesday, we are going to be joined by one of the founders of TACA, an organization. TACA, T-A-C-A, stands for Talk About Curing Autism. Now, if the word cure puts you off, please know that this is an organization that goes by TACA now, because that's a name that they started a long time ago, but it's an organization of parents that talk about things that are working for autism. So Lisa Ackerman is going to be with us Wednesday with when we do Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy with Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson. That's Wednesday at 11 o'clock. But a lot of fun and exciting stuff coming up between now and then. I want to remind you that there are lots of ways that you can get in touch with us. If you have questions for guests that we have coming up on the show, you can email, you can phone, you can Skype, you can talk to us on Facebook, you can tweet us, and you can also be watching us in lots of different ways. We're going to end this show in just a couple of minutes, but the conversation continues and the shows continue. After this show ends, you'll see rebroadcasts of the most recent shows that we've done, but if there's not something in particular that you want to see, and we've done some really amazing interviews with some experts with really good information, you can check us out on some of these different sites that you'll see before you now, blip.tv. We have our own YouTube channel. We are a free download on iTunes, and we are also available on Ustream, and there are more ways that are coming that I'm excited to tell you about in the near future. But most importantly, we want to provide you with the information that will be useful to you. And I don't want to guess what that is. I try to engage in perspective taking, but I can't always know. I can't see the expression on your face. So please always feel free to write in and tell us what kinds of things you want to see more shows about, what kinds of topics you want to cover, and what questions you have. We want to be of service to you, and everything that we do here on this show, all of the information that we provide here is free. And I'm very proud of that because I think that's exactly what it should be. You guys are taxed enough with other bills that you have. I know that, being an autism parent. So we look forward to, we're going to be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and that's our new schedule from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to noon, Monday through Friday. We've got an awesome autism blogging dad who'll be with us to share about a blog that he recently wrote about a trip to Target, which I think even he is amazed at how much attention it has gotten, but it's all for a good reason. You're going to be excited to share that. And I believe we also have another expert that's going to be joining us at 11 o'clock, but I don't have confirmation, so I don't want to give that away. But as always, we're here to help you be the most efficient, most effective member of a team working with a child to reach the most amount of progress. That's what we are about here. And we look forward to your input. I know you have things to share with us beyond just suggestions of what you'd like to have covered. I know you've got some stuff that you've been doing at home that's working, and that's of interest to me and thousands of other parents around the world. Okay, so tomorrow again at 9 a.m. and at some point we will put in our adaptive skill tip from today. But until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.